Can we move to the second question, number 8, asked by Reverend Meshoe? Honorable Reverend Meshoe, the question is about the government's position on the United Nations Declaration known as the Pact for the Future and what this pact means for the Republic. Honorable the President.
Madam Speaker, the main focus of the 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly was the Summit of the Future, and its key outcome document, the Pact for the Future. The Pact in itself seeks to forge a new global consensus for the global community to protect the needs and interests of present and future generations. And the Pact covers a number of areas critical to the progress of humanity. Before I go on, it was a real honor and a pleasure for us as South Africa to participate in this debate, a debate and a process that was ably led by Namibia and Germany. It was a proud moment to see a sister country on our continent and in our region having led a process of this nature that has resulted in a global agreement that has brought about a number of individuals that included heads of state and government, observers, non-governmental organizations, UN system organizations, civil society, and a number of other organizations, think tanks, and many others. And this was for a broader push to increase the engagement of diverse actors. And the formal summit itself was preceded by another process which Namibia and Germany led in, which included, we were told, up to 7,000 individuals representing all segments of society. So the summit process and the pact have been deeply enriched, were deeply enriched by contributions of millions of voices and thousands of stakeholders from around the world. We were proud, yes, to work alongside Namibia, and our representatives were closely involved in the whole process. And world leaders representing many countries adopted the Pact for the Future, and the Pact itself is a wide-ranging international agreement that has been in the making for many years, covering entirely new areas as well as issues on which agreement has not been possible over many decades. And the document aims, above all, to ensure that international institutions can deliver in the face of what the world is going through right now. Now, as the Secretary General said, which was observed by Honorable Reverend Meshoe, he said we cannot create a future fit for our grandchildren with a system built by our grandparents. That in many ways encapsulates the key objective of the Pact of the Future. And the Pact covers a broad range of issues, as I said, including peace and security, sustainable development, climate change, and the new area which was debated and agreed upon after long discussions was the digital cooperation, human rights, gender, youth, and future generations. And all these matters then culminated in this Pact of the Future. For us as South Africa, this spoke to precisely what we stand for, as clearly articulated in our Constitution, also articulated in the Freedom Charter, a base document that is widely supported also in our country and by a number of political parties that are represented in this Parliament. On sustainable development, climate change and financing for development, one could say that the entire pact is designed in a way to speed up the process of implementation of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. There was consensus on a detailed agreement ever at the UN on the need to reform the international financial architecture so that it can better represent and serve developing countries, particularly countries in the global south, including giving developing countries, or economic countries as I call them, a greater say in how decisions are taken at international financial institutions level. It also included mobilizing more financing and multilateral development banks to help developing economic countries and to meet their own development needs, and reviewing the sovereign debt architecture. And all these matters we found as very important for the future, but also focusing on the future generations. The Digital Cooperation Pact is a comprehensive global framework for digital cooperation. And at the heart of the compact is a commitment to design, to use, and govern technology, and to make sure that technology works for all. And on human rights and gender, the Pact aims to strengthen our work on human rights, gender equality, as well as the empowerment of women. For South Africa, the Pact for the Future reflects many of the key elements of our international agenda. The effective implementation of the actions contained in the Pact for the Future will make a significant contribution to building a better world and a better Africa. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you, President. Reverend K.R.J. Meshoe.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Mr. President, for your reply. The ACDP believes that godly values such as love, respect, and care for others that our grandparents instilled in us helped to build a solid foundation for our children and grandchildren. These are some of the values that have kept African families and cultures intact. The Pact for the Future is controversial in that it lays the foundation for the UN's new global order that will see the transfer of power from sovereign nations to the UN. While some may consider the Pact for the Future a progressive step towards global cooperation, it presents certain dangers and disadvantages that will need careful consideration. Of significant risk is the potential erosion of our national sovereignty. Noting all the positives you have stated, Mr. President, my question is whether you can assure this House and all concerned South Africans that you will not support or allow the sovereignty of South Africa to be eroded when the UN's Pact for the Future is implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. When we participated in the various discussions that have been taking place through a number of formations, both on our own continent and in various other organizations in the world, we were, as a country, always aware that we've got to promote our own national interests, interests that are clearly encapsulated in our Constitution, and interests that are also clearly well articulated in our Charter at the AU level. And in doing so, we joined many other countries in the world. And Honorable Reverend Meshoe will have listened carefully, I hope, when I described the process that has led to the adoption of this pact, because it was thoroughly debated over a number of years, involving at the very last moment more than 7,000 individuals and many, many countries that finally adopted this charter. And I would never believe that any of the countries that participated would have wanted, in the end, to erode their own sovereignty. They would instead have wanted to strengthen the United Nations, because through the United Nations we are stronger. Through the United Nations we are able to strengthen our own sovereignty. I've never seen the United Nations eroding a country's sovereignty, as the United Nations, through the charter that was adopted, aims to promote all what I would say is good that every country would want to see promoted. So we participated with a great deal of confidence, knowing that in the debates, in the exchanges, we are not undermining what we stand for and what our Constitution sets out. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.